Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have John Blanford and Dan McDonough, Part 2. We'll see the trailer for Great Battles for Boys and much more. Welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guests are John Blanford and Dan McDonough from Pastime Pictures. This is the second show we're doing with them. And this week we're talking about a YouTube project they have called Great Battles for Boys. These are about 6 or 7 minute videos about some historical battles and to draw the virtues that can help young boys in their formation today.
We're now going to see the trailer for Great Battles for Boys.
Hello, stranger. History isn't just a collection of old stories. Grab that book for me. Let's have some fun. It's a treasure trove of wisdom waiting to guide us. Boom, baby.
This is Ranger, our battle bot.
I am equipped with knowledge of every war ever fought, every combat strategy ever used, and every great military leader ever born.
Awesome!
As long as you're still in the game, your story isn't over.
I'm officially impressed.
And don't forget to subscribe. Boom, baby!
Well, Dan McDonough and John Blanford, welcome back to Life on the Rock. Last show we talked about Monster Summer. We're going to talk about some new projects you're doing now, and that is Great Battles for Boys. Tell us about that project.
So Great Battles for Boys is a YouTube animated series, and the whole idea is to encourage 8 to 14-year-old boys to read. And, you know, choosing to go on YouTube was very strategic. We wanted to meet these young boys where they're at, and we wanted to give them a taste of a great battle through an animated series and encourage them to go seek more and to, you know, have this insatiable curiosity where they say, hey, that was really interesting. How do I learn more about that? Yeah. And we point them to the book series.
So it's based on a book series.
Yes.
And it covers like World War II battles or just any kind of battle?
There's 9 books in this series currently, but the writers are developing more, and they really do span global world history.
Yeah.
So there's, in our earlier episodes, there's primarily an emphasis on American history, because we wanted to build kind of a strong foundation around our early adopters and the first audience members to find this, and just kind of on the with the 250th birthday ahead of our country, we thought it'd be awesome to have kind of this library of these great episodes celebrating American history. We definitely have visions of taking it to swords and sandals in ancient Rome and telling great heroic stories in the European theater of World War II, the Asian theater of World War II. But there's really kind of a wealth of stories. I mean, really, we can go anywhere, anytime.
And the animation, we were talking about the combination. I notice you have like nice maps, and so people can, I'm a big map guy, I like to see where it takes place, and you can convey a lot of information just from a visual kind of diagram of stuff. So you use that.
Yeah.
And you also use these characters. Tell us about the characters.
Yeah, so on the animation side, I want to give a shout out to Coronation Media. They've been our animation partner. They've been fantastic. They've helped us shape a lot of the animation styles. And we really wanted to make history engaging and reading specifically engaging. So to do that, you kind of use these different styles that help illustrate what's happening at that time. So it never gets boring. And the characters themselves, it's 2 14-year-old boys and 2 robots. And kind of the format of the show is these young boys are dealing with their own internal battles, the battles that a 14-year-old would deal with. And the robots are able to parallel that and say, hey, somebody's already solved this battle in history. Let's go back to World War I. Let's go back to the American Revolution. I'm going to show you somebody dealt with a similar problem that you're dealing with, and this is how they solved it. So through the telling of the story, they're encouraged to read and explore more, but it also shows that history isn't just a collection of old dusty facts, right? Like a lot of this can still apply to your life.
Yeah. I was watching one that talked about trust.
Yeah.
And talk about that, maybe from the boys' perspective. You're trying to communicate to them the importance of trusting others to get something done, a project.
Yeah. So we had an episode about D-Day, and the young boys come home, and they've been paired with these other teen kids, and they have to do a school project. Yeah. And 50% of their grade is dependent on them working with these two kids they've never met, and they're not happy about it. And the robots Ranger and Boom say, hey, have you ever heard of the story D-Day? It was hundreds of thousands of people that would never meet each other that actually had to work together to achieve something bigger than yourself.
Different countries.
From different countries. Yeah. And they had to do all this secretive, right? They weren't texting each other. They were, incredibly coordinated in their efforts. Yeah. And it's just a really great reflection on how you can go into a situation that feels impossible and come out on the other side stronger and better.
Yeah. And, you got robots, you got war, that stuff. You've got like 80% of the boys right there.
Yes, there you go.
And, I remember hearing one time, like with superheroes, the boys especially are fascinated with this, and the villains. Sometimes the villain's got a backstory, and you have to know the weakness of the villain, right? And so the boys will study both the superhero and the villain, because there's something you want to achieve, you want to win, right?
Right.
And I think that's just hardwired in men to see it like that. They're focused on outward achievement all the time.
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, those are high concepts to break down. But no, I do think when you're creating fiction, having a strong antagonist. Yeah. Really is important to creating a compelling story, right? Because without that antagonist being convincing, right? Yeah. The call of the hero isn't as compelling either, right? Like you really need something daunting, something that feels like it can't be overcome, right? For you to really buy into this underdog hero winning at the end, right? And we are a big proponent of good overcoming evil, and like to have that resolution in all the storytelling we do. It's not ambiguous for us, right? It's not relative, like evil's real, but it can be called out and it can be defeated. In the context of history, I think it's important to just understand that like this world is imperfect, and there's a lot of real evil that comes into this world, and it takes good people to stand up, to find courage, to work together, to confront that evil and defeat it, right? And that's what's so powerful about history. Like, these are real things that happen. Forget superpowers, forget something in a parallel universe. Like, this is our world. This is our grandparents. This is our ancestors that had to deal with this real manifestation of evil. And we're convicted enough to do that, and the world is a better place because of it. But it's something that we're continuing to have to confront today. Like, it doesn't go away. Right. And I like that emphasis on the D-Day one about, just the planning, the thought that, as men, it's just not rush to battle. It involves the whole person, all our talents, abilities, and everything to overcome challenges in our life, right? We need advice from others. We need help from others, and, to coordinate all that. I thought, those are great things. And we should say too, we're talking about boys. You guys feel called to help the boys, because you told me a shocking statistic about a third of eighth graders that. One in 3 eighth graders are functionally illiterate, and boys are the reason that's driving that number way down. Yeah. They're not reading. They're not interested in it. So the show is really to encourage them that reading doesn't have to be this stuffy thing that's a chore, right? And falling in love with reading, not just historical reading, but just reading in general, has broad, far-reaching
positivity in their life, if they can learn to seek knowledge and truth on their own, that's what we want. We want to empower these young boys, inform them to say, hey, we want you to read, and we want you to discover on your own what do you really think about this? Don't just believe what everybody tells you. You go do your own research and figure out for yourself.
And reading is access to infinite learning, right? Like once you get a taste of, once you become a reader, you can open yourself up to anything that you're passionate about, right? In the case of Battles for Boys, it's history, right? But we were talking earlier about, great inventors and entrepreneurs that didn't necessarily have academic success,
right,
but they were extremely rigorous in their application of learning, right? And so encouraging boys to use reading, make that a habit in your life to build a successful lifestyle and to create opportunities for yourself.
Yeah.
It's really a foundational skill. Beyond just academic success. Like it's important to just being a flourishing human being. You can't just hide behind a device your whole life and expect to make gains in society.
Right. Have the discipline to do the homework, to master the craft. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we got to take a little break. We'll be back in just a moment. Well, Dan and John, we've been talking about great battles for boys and these videos you are making. Where can people watch these?
So they can find it on YouTube, totally free. Just you can either type in Great Battles for Boys or search for our company, Pastime Pictures, and it'll drive you right to it.
And these videos are usually like 6 or 7 minutes long.
The whole idea is that we don't want to replace the books. We want to be a force multiplier to what the books are doing. We want to give these young kids, these young men, a taste of a great battle, and we want them to say, "Hey, how do I learn more about that?" And to do that, they have to go and open the book and actually read.
And you felt it was a real calling to be on YouTube itself. Is that right?
Yes. Well, largely as we were marketing Monster Summer, and we're doing a lot of research about, how are kids consuming content today, it became very evident to us that the primary destination where kids are consuming content is YouTube, which surprised us. I would have guessed it would have been like one of the core players like Disney Plus or one of the main studios, but overwhelmingly the minutes being watched are on YouTube. And as we kind of dug into what's being offered to them on YouTube, there really is like kind of a dearth of quality entertainment there. But also there's a lack of moral vision that's being presented to them. I mean, they call it brain rot. That's not a term that parents created about what their kids are watching. That is what kids call the content they consume, is brain rot and doom scrolling, right? So those are not those are not words I would use to describe a flourishing experience, right? So we really felt compelled to go to where they're at and to offer this resource to families to inspire them to, learn, read, but also enjoy this content where they're already consuming so much content.
Is there something from your childhood that inspired you, that because you all worked in the movie business on different projects, Hollywood stuff? What drew you to the industry? What inspired you to go there?
For me, and this connects to a concept we were talking about in the previous episode about male role models stepping up. For me, it was an after-school program where a local kid, 18-year-old kid, volunteered to kind of be our group leader, and he was in film school. And he kind of leveraged, for lack of a better word, us middle schoolers to be his film crew. And it gave me the bug. Like we would organize kind of our own little film shoots and do our kind of hokey renditions of Mission Impossible or Blair Witch Project or various things. And we would kind of... They would become spoofs. We took them very seriously. We intended them to be great, but they were always kind of comedic. But like that introduction to the power of filmmaking and the impact it can have on people who are watching the content, but also making the content, stuck with me my whole life. And it really kind of reawakened in me in college when I started taking some film electives, and it just was like, this is what I want to do. And it really started with that after school program. I was a kid.
How do you describe that quality that just grabs us? I know for me, I love to be moved by a movie, not in just terms of like somebody dies or something, but there's something about, I know we probably all have our own stuff that moves us, but there's something that just grabs my heart, with certain scenes. And yet, I don't know the formula. I don't know, how do you reproduce that? I think about it in preaching, how do you do that? But
well, I think my response to that is I think filmmaking is the ultimate art form. If you look at just all the things that go into making a film, like music is a standalone art form, architecture is a standalone art form, costuming is a standalone art form, acting, lighting, you can go all the way across the board. And all of those things are mixed into a soup that ultimately creates a film. So I think that's why it's really powerful. Like everybody watching a movie knows that it's fake. They know these characters aren't real. They know that the stories don't really exist, but somehow it just breaks your walls down and allows you to be impacted in a really deep personal way. And I think that's the reason why it's this amalgamation of all the great art forms coming together in a beautiful way.
Yeah. And some of your work, like in the secular world, were there people that just left you in awe, that just, you just said that's a God-given talent or whatever, or have you met people?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I think and again, I describe it as a vocation, because it is something that like truly like you don't stop thinking about. Like when you love what you do, like you don't just put it away at 5 o'clock and check out, right? It's something that when we wake up, we're thinking about, talking about. And there's people, obviously God distributes talents to everyone differently, but there's definitely people that are just touched in a very special way that I can't imagine them doing anything else. Right. But what they do is so prolific and so enthralling that, like, I think as producers, when we find a creator like that, like we do everything we can to surround those people with the support mechanisms and the talented crew they need to pull off their vision, because their vision is important and it does come from God, I believe. Right.
Yeah.
And you very much want to, in that process, to make it cohesive, a beautiful, humane.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you work with these artists, they're all just so specialized in what they do. Like, I'm never going to be a good prop maker, but I love sitting across the table from somebody that has devoted their life to making props and the art of making props, and hearing like, what are your pain points? How can I help you? How can we work together so you're a really cohesive part of this vision, so that you're not, your needs are taken into account, so that we can create the most beautiful product together.
It's truly collaborative.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, and let's say that, I mean, just to expound upon that point, like to me, it's one of the few industries left where there really is still a passing on of knowledge and wisdom and skills. Like there is truly apprenticeship that goes on, and there's prop makers that are 3rd, 4th generation prop makers that like, that is what their family does.
Right.
And you can't replicate that easily.
No.
Right.
No, you can't. Sometimes I wish there was a book on how do you make filmmaking, and like, there's not a good one that I found that just completely encapsulates what it's like.
And Dan, you come from we just have like a minute, but you come from an animation background, and that's probably its own art and challenges just in that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, so working on Great Battles for Boys with my animation background is really exciting. It's a completely different art form than live action filmmaking, but at the end of the day, it's bringing great people together and bringing them behind a vision. The only difference is that these characters are created in a computer, and you're trying to create realism and feeling and emotion with something that's just digital pixels versus a human trying to match that acting style. So it's a really positive and fun challenge, and we're really excited for people to watch Great Battles for Boys.
Yeah. Well, Dan and John, thank you so much for joining us, and I want to keep tabs on you and hear what projects you're doing next and how it continues to grow. But your work is needed. We need to be out there in that mission field. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Father. Appreciate it.
talking about battles, we're not trying to glorify war. War is a terrible thing. It's always a failure of diplomacy, a failure in some way, but there are virtues therein, right? We're struggling against some kind of threat.
Right.
And I think young boys, as we mentioned, they're falling behind in so many ways today. As John and Dan said, they want to get them reading and immersed in good things to inspire them. These young boys they're hardwired for achievement. They're driven. And we got to tell them, go take that hill. You can do it. This is how you do it, right? These are virtues you need. And I think that's what they're trying to do.
And I think, too, like you were saying, I think with war, one of the things that captures people is that there's a rise to an occasion. Of something going almost beyond human, of facing fears, of courage, of just being faithful to your duty. Because you're under some of the most stressful circumstances, you're deprived of food, there's of a lot of things, of sleep. And so there's a harsh reality and brutality to war. But it's always been part of the history of man, from the very beginning to our modern age. That's always been something just in the world that shapes the world that we live in so many different ways. But I think, again, it's so important to learn about these men, about these events, because they do matter. They impact us in ways that we don't even understand sometimes. But just the fact that you're getting young men to learn, make that engaging, the reading, the history, I think is so critical today.
Yeah, it seems like oftentimes boys have trouble sitting in their seat, studying and paying attention. And these, John and Dan, are trying to reach them, and stir their hearts and to form them a good life of virtue. And so just want to commend them on their work, And
I think, too, there's somewhat of a snowball effect with learning that once you kind of get the ball rolling, it just doesn't stop. And like one of them said, reading opens to an infinite amount of learning. You can kind of just read for the rest of your life. And I think even as we get older, we appreciate, that aspect of reading, of learning, and not just reading something, what did I just read? Which we've all been there before.
It gets harder the older you get.
It does,
We'll send you that vineyard with a blessing. May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. May Almighty God bless you and fill you with His Spirit in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week on Life on the Rock.
Traveling through this world below, there's no sickness, no toil or danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my Father and all my loved ones who've gone on. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I know dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way is hard and steep, but beauteous feet